All right, Kyle. We've had a couple of technical difficulties this morning, but we are now live on YouTube. And over the next couple of minutes, I'll bring on the other channels. So, to anybody out there who was waiting for us to start exactly on time, it doesn't always happen. But here we are. So, Kyle,
Right.
how are you today?
We've had
Pretty good, thank you. I should really say we're broadcasting live from Mars today for anybody in the Bay Area looking outside at the orange hue. We're not just, Kent and I aren't just delightfully tanned, we actually have a natural orange hue to us today. I'm pretty good, apart from what I feel like smoking 3 packs a day unintentionally. We're doing extraordinary. But what interesting times! What crazy times! What amazing times! And as always, welcome to Digitized Live. We're here to unlock your digital potential, and every single week, the rate of digitization is increasing. The breakthroughs in digitization are increasing. The need for digitization is increasing. So this just makes our show every week more relevant, more timely, more impactful, and it gets even more exciting for us because we actually get to pause, come here, reconnect, recalibrate, talk about what's been going on, and then share that wisdom with you of what we've been learning. So we are very excited to be back here for a season 3, episode 3. And how are you doing, Kent?
I'm doing great. As you pointed out, the skies over pretty much the entire West Coast, as I understand it, are red. It looks like something out of an apocalyptic film, so I'm not sure I enjoy it. But the good news is that it's like a giant nightlight, and all of my children slept in this morning for an additional hour, and that was pretty great. So there is a at least one positive for my side was everybody got a little bit more rest this morning. The other thing is, while you were talking, I did take us live on Twitter and on Facebook.
Great.
So hi everyone out there on those channels. It's great to see you. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and on YouTube, the notification button if you want to know a few minutes before our next episodes are going live, because we've rescheduled those now. So I'm good, Kyle. I think we should just jump right into it and talk about our biggest sort of observations in digitization or digitalization or getting digitized in the last week. So why don't you kick us off this week? What's the one thing that you've seen over the last week I know there's more than one, but what's the one
That's
thing
right.
that really stands out for you?
One of the things that stood out for me was more around the entertainment side. I mean, there's stuff in space and neurology and all the big breakthroughs that we'll probably touch on some of those. But the one that I actually found myself enjoying deeply was for anybody that watched the VMA Awards. And that was a really great solution that the VMAs created, where obviously they can't have the live audience join them, and they can't even have artists potentially be in the same proximity with each other. So what they did was either that, I'm not quite sure of all the inner workings on the background. I'm trying to research on that stuff. But what happened was they created a virtual reality, a kind of a reality mixed with virtual reality stage. And so the artists would come out and perform on what seemed like a green screen studio floor. And bravo to all the artists, because what they were able to do was act out like actors in a very limited environment, which would probably just be a green environment or blue environment. And around them, they were transported to worlds. There were the craziest things happening. And then the other thing I found fantastic that they did was they actually put artists in very unique locations. So they put them in buildings in downtown LA and things like that. But around the buildings, they completely manipulated the reality of the environment. And that to me was just two things. One is that's digitizing entertainment on a whole nother level, mixing, real people with live. And it started to create a sensation where it was like that added dimension to artist shows. And of course, one of the ones that took it to a whole nother level was Lady Gaga, who must have worked with them to say, well, what is this going to look like? I'm going to take my performance to the next level. But what I found fascinating was the new creativity that unlocked, because this is now the new platform and medium, and what they're thinking of doing. So that was a huge, really mainstream observation for me about this clashing of reality and digital reality together to create extraordinary entertainment situations. That's the big one for me this week, Kent.
So the one that I'll give is maybe a smaller direct example, but I think no less impactful in its context. I was watching an online fitness class, and I've mentioned this before on this show that my wife's um, fitness instructor took her entire class virtual and actually ended up letting the lease go on their studio, just saying, "Yeah, that's it. We're done with that." And they probably won't ever go back to the way things were. And the reason is now the two key instructors have been moving from place to place, either with their families or on purpose, like sort of mini holidays, going around, and they teach the fitness class from wherever they are. As long as they have a network connection, they can fire up that Zoom call and do it, and that's neat. But the other thing that happened the other day was one of those instructors, this was the big observation, one of the instructors was having a technical difficulty with Zoom. One of the students in the class raises her hand and says, "Oh, I used to do fitness classes for like Taibo style boxing, so I could fill in for you while you fix the problem." So the teacher effectively logged off, left the Zoom running. The student stepped up and started teaching everybody in the class boxing. So I look in there and I see my wife, and she's like punching and jabbing, and I'm like, "What's going on?" Because that's not Zoom. I was like, "Did she get a new teacher?" No, it's one of her students actually stepped in and taught the class. Now, this would be possible in a physical environment that the teacher could say, "Hey, Jane, you step up and do the thing." But the fact that the teacher was in a different location, that's probably where the technical problem came from. The student was able to just volunteer, step up. Next thing you know, my wife is doing boxing moves, so I got to watch out now. But but it's just like, I mean, none of this was possible before. Like, not fully, not in this way. Not with they've got the music dialed in, they've got the class dialed in, and the whole thing is recorded every single time. So any student who can't come to the class can do effectively the replay for, I think I heard, I'm sorry I didn't get this fully, but I think it's like for a 2-week period, that class stays online. So in this crazy world now where we are teachers, we are parents, we are housekeepers, we are doing everything, shopping, it's pretty easy to miss a fitness class. It's not a problem because you know that the replay is there for you. And at the same time, I'm watching this build of an unbelievable community of support around my wife that has been really, really helpful for her. And I don't think enough can be said about that piece. So my observation is, look what's happening. And it's so positive. And that's just a teeny tiny thing affecting 20 or 30 people. Never mind that anybody anywhere in the world could join into that community if they wanted to. You don't have to be where we are anymore. But what a beautiful thing that is coming into being because of the forcing function of a global pandemic through digitization. I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. I want to build on that for a second. I should have probably used this as my example, but but I was just fascinated by that award show. This past week was a real blessed week in terms of seeing the digitization roll out even of our own businesses. I got to be on a few stages with several keynotes this week. And what was interesting is, as you were talking about community, Kent, I got to speak on a stage in Turkey and I got to speak on a stage in Sweden. Now, each of those were the destination, but around it, I think we counted close to 40 countries across a couple of these keynotes that people showed up in the thousands of audience participants. What has been interesting for myself and for the business is the amount of inflow of new connections with people that I don't know if I would have ever have met. And even if you were at a live event, there's no way we probably would have got to speak to that many human beings, because now the channels of communication come through like LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and email, and through email capture or through the website, whatever those things are. And I'm noticing now that there's a whole different dialogue with a different audience from last week that I didn't know. I have feel like I have hundreds of new friends who were really engaging and connecting with the content but we don't know each other. We don't know about our lives. I mean, you can research things, but what we did connect on and what we have connected on is a message. It's a sense of purpose, or it's a sense of outcome that we're trying to see or deliver in the world together. And from that point is where the new friendship forms. And it's been fascinating to experience a new sense of relationships coming into my life and into the team's life. And we may never get to meet these people in person ever, maybe. But what we do know is that the words and the voice recordings or even the video chats are very emotionally moving. And that is a big observation that I feel. Another one is just that we are getting closer together. And even with the things that are happening, like the pandemic and the orange skies and the wildfires, if you're up in California, and then all the other things, every country's got their thing going on right now. Apart from the pandemic has kind of sparked some sort of a systemic change or some sort of action. People are coming together and they're forming these networks and clusters around these purposeful outcomes. And that is only possible. I know, Kent, you reiterated almost every session, we reiterate it again. It is only possible because of where technology has allowed us to go. But what's amazing is just how I feel like I can actually feel a physical sense. Like I feel like I'm around the world. I felt like I visited a culture. I felt like I went somebody and I never left my office. So that's a really big one where I feel we're all elevating up to a different kind of a conversation. And by elevating up to a different kind of conversation, we start to create a different level of community. And that's a very powerful, been a very powerful feeling over the last few weeks, I must admit.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's happening to everybody. And I think that's sort of the last thing about this is that there are probably a billion people who would not have touched this possibility had it not been for a global pandemic. And there in no way would I say that this global pandemic is a good thing because too many people are losing their lives. But at the same time, our society is forever changed. I put out a tweet yesterday or the day before that says we've passed an event horizon, right? The event horizon being, that boundary between normal space and when you cross into the gravity well of a black hole, and that you cannot go back. We've passed a global event horizon as a culture, as a global culture, as a society. It'd be pretty deep if we keep digging into that, but the reality is that there's no going back, and so I am choosing personally to look for, find, and focus on the positive outcomes while keeping myself, my family, my friends, my business partners, my colleagues safe as much as I can. Be responsible for anybody else's actions. I'm just doing what I can to operate in this new reality and find the positive things. That's just a choice I've made. Otherwise, it's not very fun. And when you look out your window and you see a red sky, it looks like Armageddon. Otherwise, when you look out the window, you see a red sky, you can think maybe you can think of, oh, good, the kids got to sleep in. But maybe I'm fooling myself, but maybe that's what we have to do for a little while we
shifting the mindset.
Out. Yeah, exactly.
Shifting the mindset. So on that note, Ken, we wanted to talk about, and you wanted to pull back some more of the curtain. That's what season 3 is all about, pulling back the curtain, going deep in a very rapid, exponential kind of way into what we do, into tools and techniques to be able to further advance our viewers and listeners, and your digitization of your potential. So Ken, what's interesting here is, let's get into the idea of how we digitize events and why it's important to digitize events. And what I'd love to kick off is hearing from you is why is a digital event so important in these times?
Well, I think we started to hit on it. The lifeblood of any business is its clientele, its revenue, and you get that by interacting with other human beings. Our modes of interacting have been interrupted, and so when you attend a digital event, there's a whole bunch of things about it that are a bit different from a live event. But the number one thing that we see again and again and again that people care about the most and love the most at these digital events is human connection. and that's from a peer-to-peer basis, and it's from a, say, whoever is hosting or emceeing or speaking or providing information in a workshop format at an event. So it's the connection to them. The connections to the deliverers of content are stronger than ever as a result of these virtualization or digitization of events. And then the connections on a peer-to-peer basis are more persistent, and they have the possibility of staying on longer than ever before, because we are literally directly connected. We're not all peer members of an audience who aren't really encouraged necessarily to communicate except by randomly bumping into one another, and then everybody chases the speaker. No, on this virtual playing field, this digitized playing field, frankly, we're all a lot more equal in certain ways than we have been before, in our ability to communicate with one another specifically. So for me, that's number one. Is it just absolutely levels the playing field for direct person-to-person communication, and that's what you're to a degree expressing. I was on a stage in Brazil last week from right here in this chair, and apparently that thing was viewed by over 13,000 people. I've done a lot of presenting. It's been extremely rare for me to present to audiences over 10,000.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And what's interesting is we've noticed in one of the events that I attended is that they did it on the multiple streams. And so when you start to, count up all the different audiences on the different multiple streams, and then the fact that those get recorded in the moment and then get placed there so that people that couldn't be there in exactly the moment still get to relive the moment. And then you just start to see the numbers increase and increase and increase. So you go visit back after 6 months or 3 months or 1 month even, you'll probably notice that 13,000 is probably going to double, if the content is good and the event is, if they're doing a downstream type of a way. It's really fascinating now that these event moments, which were used to be very much, okay, wait for the highlight reel to come back. Now in live, you kind of get to just watch the replays if you want to. You get to watch so much and relive it so much more. This idea of documenting the experiences, which is quite interesting, because I think the big thing there is that makes knowledge abundant. That makes access to certain speakers abundant if it's done in the right way. I know that I think the Tony Robbins camp just did a whole bunch. It was very interesting. They did a whole bunch of massive events. I'm not sure if you've seen their background formula, but he has built an entire 360-degree, I think these are like 30-foot high walls of digital screens of canvases, which have his team in the background. If anybody wants to see this, go onto the Tony Robbins Instagram, and you'll see behind the scenes, he's created this circular stage where he stands in the middle by himself, and he has on these screens all the people, like tens of thousands of people that log in to watch the events live. He has their screens up. So he's looking at all these faces. He's looking at all these rooms, being able to call people out and walk up and interact with them. And he's doing this event in such an interesting new way. And so no longer is he limited to a stadium anymore. It's now like exponentially bigger. So they even dreaming of bigger audiences and even bigger audiences. It's really fascinating, this where the digital event experience is going, and the integration of technology and the experiential components of it as well. So Kent, with that, if you think about talking about how we digitize events, what would be your couple top tips or your couple key things that you want to take the folk through about why it's important to digitize, but also how we digitize?
Oh my gosh, there's an unlimited number of things we could talk about. Let me show something really quick.
Yeah.
I brought up. Sorry, I have to look over here and there. I can't look right in the camera sometimes and do these transitions. But here, I'll take us over into, this is our digitized demo mode where Kyle and I go just a little bit ghosty, and you see behind us. But what you see up on the screen here is an event that we did run. We ran this event. I'm not going to pipe audio in, okay? So it's just running in the background, and we'll narrate and overdub. But this is the MC, or the moderator for an event that was done by OpenEXO and the co-moderators. That's Salim and Michelle there. And you'll notice that Salim is in a room in his house that he's dedicated specifically for this. Michelle's in her office. Now, you see the uplighting behind the plant behind Salim. That's not his normal lighting, but whenever we do these live events, we do this. So there's a lot of things that you want to think about in terms of the what's behind you when you're on camera. And we spend a lot of effort when we're setting up events, especially for the primary host. I'll give away a little secret. This is actually a spare bedroom in that house, and off to his left is a bed. You never want to have a bed behind you when you're trying to give, a professional presentation. And then if I fast forward what I want to show, before I do that even, you'll notice that behind them there's this rotating globe and a design. That's the set design. So, we spent time. So this is the fixed background set design, and they're in 2-ups. This is a 2-up with a white border, which pops them off of the background. And the background has a white overlay with an opacity applied. And that's why it looks like it looks. It looks nice. It reminds you of things you might see on the news. And then over here, you'll see a similar thing in a 4-up mode. And this is all live, where you've got Michelle is on, I think she was somewhere on the East Coast. Salim's up in Toronto, top left. Bottom right, you've got somebody in Europe. And the bottom left, you've got somebody else in a different part of Europe. All talking to each other live in real time, piped into this studio right here where we're broadcasting from, Kyle, and out, and then with labels and everything. And then sort of just giving you a fast forward preview, there were intermissions. This is where we sent people to go to networking and meet peer-to-peer. In this particular case, we used a platform called Hopin in this particular case. And then over here, you'll see this was a video that we rolled, short video. I think it was 5 minutes, talking about a topic. And then afterwards, we had a presentation on the launch of a podcast. So all these things that you're seeing are predetermined. We thought about it, right? We planned ahead on what the shots would look like, what the stage would look like, how the transitions would be done. This was crazy. We actually had the folks from the Tiger King on this particular show. So they showed up, and this was a really interesting bit or segment in the overall show that you can go see. It's at 4:45 into a 11 and a half hour show. And you can go look at this. This is all on YouTube, right? So you can just go see it, and it's at the bottom of the, this is the Digitized Live webpage, so digitized.live. Right here at the bottom is what I'm playing. I just took it full screen. So what else is here that I would show? That's what it looks like if you do a 3-up mode. And you can see that I ran out of time setting up this shot and didn't make the borders. Nobody really cared, I don't think, but the funny things like that happen all the time. We had full screen presentations, we had online meditations, we had live music. The whole end of the show was live music. This was a lovely, lovely young lady, Esther Guigui, singing. And then we had Casey Abrams, who was one of the top folks in one of the American Idol. He came in and he gave a live performance. It was awesome. Like, we had a really good time. And so this is an example. And, we've been running these events for a while at OpenExcel, and we know that they're actually changing, in some cases, they're actually changing people's lives. I know that sounds like a stretch with the little demo I just showed you, and you won't even necessarily get that exact same experience if you just go watch the replay. Replays are important, but being there, having the live human interaction, being able to talk to people in the interviews and in the live sessions and everything that happened after somebody's on live, man, that aspect of producing a virtual event and leveraging interactivity to its max, which you don't get in the replays, okay? That's what's special about being there live versus just watching the replay. There's nothing else like it, Kyle. It's completely unique to this digital experience.
It's awesome. One of the things that I was just connecting to there was, I wonder, for all the people watching, is what does it make you think of? What does it make you dream of? Like, Ken mentioned a couple really important things here, which is there's the topic of why you're getting together, which is, and now what's interesting is that for anybody with social accounts, anybody with some form of social media following, and even if you don't have a large one, the idea that all the social networks are more than happy to take advertising dollars to
Yeah.
spread your message or to put your advert or to put the link to your event in front of a lot of people you may never meet, and they'll do it internationally as well. Yeah,
Not want to interrupt, but for shockingly little money, you can 10x the exposure of your event.
that's right.
I'm not going to get into the numbers and details and stuff, but we do this type of very specific boosting for these events all the time. And I'm talking 10x, 100x exposure for very, very little dollars. It's unbelievable. And so as long as you set yourself up right, we don't even talk about the marketing aspects of this.
Right.
That's a whole different show now
Yeah.
that I think about it. But
Yeah.
and we could even bring on one of our guys, our team members who does a lot
That
of
would
the
be
marketing
good.
for our events. I didn't even think of that until just now. We should mark that. We should bring him on and let him talk about some of the things we've done, and that would be a really valuable show.
Because with that in mind, what Ken was just sharing with you is that if you could 10x your audience, if you could 10x the message that you're trying to connect to, if you want to 10x the knowledge that you want to share, if you could 10x the amount of people that you'd like to bring together around a particular empathy you have in the world, or a particular intolerance you have to something going on, or a challenge you want to solve, or a purpose that you want to live out, the idea of the digital event, the big thing that I think that we're establishing with this is that we've got to reframe our thinking from the idea of digital fatigue or even Zoom fatigue or event fatigue, and start to think about what is it that I'm investing my digital time into. So if I'm going to be online, if I'm going to connect, if I'm going to dedicate some hours, or some of these events that we've run are multiple days, not without sleep, of course, but like blocks of time during the day. If I'm going to invest myself into digital energy, what is that energy by which I can get something very powerful out of it? It's going to help me work towards the goals that I'm trying to work in my life, and it's going to get me to meet inspiring new perspectives. And there's no time like right now where you could put something out and that I guarantee that a percentage of your audience, no matter who it is, will be people you've never met, you didn't know of, that were maybe fell outside of your traditional invitations and targeting, but that will bring interesting perspective, that will bring new knowledge to you. And so I think with what Kent is sharing and what he's showing is that you can connect people. If you want to create digital events, I would highly recommend to go out and do it. Whatever it is for you, whether it's going live on Instagram, whether it's creating a bigger event, whether it's doing a massive production like this, just go out and do it, because what you're doing is you're further advancing knowledge, you're further advancing connectivity, and you're further advancing your own cause and purpose. And you get to do that with people all around the world, which is unprecedented. It's just not just the cost and the logistics of having done that before a year ago would have been on a whole different level. So any thoughts to add to that one, Ken?
No, we'll let that one go. That was awesome. One of the things I want to do on this show today is something we've promised to do on the shows before, so I want to deliver on that. We have some questions in our YouTube channel. They're pretty straightforward, so I can answer them quickly. So I think we should do that and then talk about sort of that action item, Kyle. So while I take care of these questions, I'll hand over the action item to you in a second. But that's the basic format we're following, everybody. And just as a quick reminder, if you want a reminder of when these shows are going to be, go to YouTube, click the subscribe button, and there's a little thumbs up. If you click the thumbs up, that's great. It really helps us a lot. If you click the notification, which looks like a little bell, it will actually remind you via email when the next show is coming up. And that's totally your choice, but we would love it if you click the like and subscribe and tell people about the show if this has been helpful to you. So with that, I'm going to talk about the questions. So Megan Humphrey, thank you out there. So Megan, I need to go back here into demo mode to show what Megan's asking. So there's me and you and me again. This is a video called How to Add Music to Your Zoom Calls with Spotify and Loop Back on a Mac. You can see this has been viewed almost 5,000 times now, which is awesome. But the thing that Megan is asking is, she's saying, I'm wondering if you were teaching a class and that was a combination of both in-person and also live streamed. Shout out to Lena, who says the whole world's going to be hybrid soon. She's a member of our team. Is there a way to allow for both groups of students to hear the music adequately? 100% yes, Megan. It is not a problem at all. So when you do get back to in-class instruction and you still want to maintain your virtual class, the way that so many are doing now, using the techniques like I outlined in this particular video, using this piece of software here called Loopback, you can pipe it using Loopback to multiple output channels, and you would just set up a speaker in your studio as a monitor from this third column over here. More than I can go into beyond that in this call, but 100% yes, and I'll replicate this answer for you on YouTube. So thank you for the question. The second question, oh no, this was a nice comment from Camille Ocasio. Camille also used the same Loopback configuration guide, different video for fitness instructors, and she was having trouble with her audio, so I helped her inside the YouTube channel. I'm not going to repeat that, but she just wanted to say thank you to us, Kyle. It's been working perfectly with these settings, so that's great. Thank you, Camille. We're really happy to hear that. And then the third one today is from Fabiano Miranda. He is asking, okay, can we share the setup for how we actually create tutorials like the one that you see here? We get this question a lot. So I'll explain very briefly. What you see on the right-hand side, what you see me overlaying effectively my computer monitor with Loopback open in the background. And I did the whole demo like this. You can see as I scrub through, I'm always here. And this way, the reason to do this, folks, is similar to the teaching we do for speakers when they come into our events, Kyle. So we teach them the 7 tips for being a virtual speaker. Well, I'm using them myself here, and it makes you effective in presentation. It's to look directly into the camera and a whole bunch of other things. I'll go watch the video. It's a nice video, 7 tips for presenting virtual events. It's on the channel here. But the point is that the way that I did this particular one, there are many ways to do this, okay? There's a very easy way, which is to use a piece of software called Lumio. It's not quite as fancy as this, but it has a similar effect and it works really well. The second way is I use a tool, and we talked about this in last week's show. I use a tool called Wirecast, and that's if you're doing live broadcast and presentation. So I actually broadcasted this particular demo live, recorded it, and then put it on the channel as a replay. Same way we do for an event. The third way is I like the stuff from Telestream, so I use Wirecast, and I use a piece of software called ScreenFlow Pro. You can do every single thing that you see me do here with a tool called ScreenFlow Pro if you want the ability to save it down, post-edit, and do things. And then I also use another tool to edit these before I post them in YouTube called Descript. I can actually show here, and they just released a major upgrade, by the way, which I haven't had time to talk about yet. But this is Descript, and I have done whole episodes before here on this channel and videos about Descript. It says podcast, but many of the tools inside Descript work for video casts or video podcasts as well. This tool is unbelievable. Like, it's truly an amazing piece of kit to have. It's a subscription model. It costs, for the pro version, it's $30 a month. I think for the next version down, Team or whatever it is called, I can't remember, it's like $20 a month. And then there's a free version that's quite limited in scope of what it can do. So to answer your question, Fabiano, that's how I do it. Maybe I should just make more videos about how I do it and put them on the channel here. But it's also a smaller version of how Kyle and I do what we're doing right now. It's all the same stack, same technology, same everything. It's how we do what we do. And as Kyle said, we've been trying to pull back the curtains a little bit, really share more about what's going on here and how you can do it too. So Megan, Camille, Fabiano, thank you so much for your questions. Please, folks, if you see this and you have a question, you're stumped by something, we love a challenge. We'll do our best to get it on the show, or at the very least answer it in the comments. on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. So Kyle, back over to you for next steps and take us out. We're a couple minutes over today, but it's been fun, so why not?
Awesome. And thank you so much for those extra previews, and keep looking back, because we are constantly going deeper on new tools, new methodologies, but then also just exposing the stuff that's right in front of us all the time and how to unleash and capitalize the potential in those. So one last quick giveaways we do for every session. From anyone that would write in an email, if you go into our webpage, if you go to Digitized Live and you drop down, you will see a digitized transformation roadmap. If you fill it in, at least fill in your name and address, the first person, if you quote Digitized Live Season 3, Episode 3, the first person will get a free hour of digital consulting from myself and Kent. So go to this page, scroll down into to ready to get digitized, fill in your name, give us a reference over there, push submit, and then the first person will get in touch, and we will go deep on what your business needs are as well. So with that, thank you so much again for joining us. This is Digitized Live, where we get to unlock your digital potential. We covered a bunch of things today, what's going on in the world, some thoughts and feelings about where the future is moving to in terms of digitization. Kent really pulled back the curtain even more on digital events, showing you what is possible. And we're going deep on some extra tools and methodologies as well. So action-packed show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Don't forget,
yes, Ken.
We have a guest next week, one of our events. You remember? So we're going to be having, I'm assuming we can still make this happen. It's 1 week later than it was supposed to be. But a young lady named Megan, who has been an incredible resource, and we always learn with our clients. So Megan will be coming on to talk about a series that she has helped us do. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet. I'll put it on the preview stuff for the next show. But I'm really excited about that. It'll be our first guest of the season, and we have a few more coming. So
awesome.
That too.
Right. And special guests dropping in. So action-packed season. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place. And remember, we all have a digital version of ourselves waiting to get unleashed. So unlock that digital potential, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much, Kent. Great show.
Thank you, Kyle. It's great to be here. Thanks. Bye.